Bora lá. Tudo sobre a expansão, gente.
Really new, crazy new location. We're in downtown Seattle. Would you look at the view we have of the Space Needle? Amazing. All right, before we start though, let me walk through and introduce everyone. Pretty sure you all know Katie and Dave, who've been in a lot of these. I'm trying to move my mic with me. We got Rosie, who is our World Experience Art Lead. Dave McKenzie in the back, who's a World Experience Designer.
Aqui, líder de arte, mano. Ó, culpado das skins é ela.
Dan Henuber, who runs is a PO for our mounts and our social team. JR, who's our PEX lead. Josh, who's a senior combat designer, going to tell you about the flail. Rachel, who's a social designer. Sorry, I'm turning. Vince, our UX lead. Gwen, who's a producer for our AI team. And Carrie, who's a narrative game designer. I had to think about that, Carrie, because it's a strange title for me. Anyway, rather than me talking a lot more, I just want to dive right into the expansion. Again, Rise of the Angry Earth expansion coming out in October. There's a feature that I've seen on the Reddit a couple times in the last year that people have been asking for. So why don't we start with that? Dan, can you tell us a little bit about mounts?
Vamos começar pelas montarias, gente.
Yeah, I've seen those comments too, Scott. So when you hop into the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion, you're gonna see, if you open up your map, you're gonna see an icon, and that icon is it's a horse head icon. If you go to that icon, it's in the north part of Everfall. You will be able to ride around our game on mount. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
What can I ride?
Well, when you start out, you're going to have a horse.
Cavalo.
I almost want to say like it's spoilers, and we shouldn't say, but you get a horse, you get a wolf, and you get a lion.
Lobo.
You get
Leão.
a ton of variety within each. There's kind of like a quest line to go with it. And yeah.
So I don't know. One thing I think is pretty cool about mounts is, you don't start off at max speed. Like you actually, the more you ride them and the more things you do, you can get better at riding, and that can gain speed. Can you talk just a little bit about like how you get better at going faster? Other ways you can is my mount stock? Can I make changes to it? Are there things I can do to enhance it?
Yeah, so to go in a little more detail about how that works, as you accumulate mounts, first of all, they go into your kind of roster of mounts. You will have them forever at that point. You can rename them whatever you want. They do come with cool names. As you ride, you'll go through kind of like a series of quests, and then there's alternate ways where you can accumulate riding trade skill. The higher your trade skill, the faster you can ride. There's also a bunch of other small bits and bobs along the way as you level. We have some slots for your mount where you can equip kind of like trinkets for them, where you can kind of customize how you want your mount to ride. Different buffs that you get when you're dismounted.
Salve. Galera, então, nós vai ter uma habilidade cavalgada, tá? E quanto mais level nós subir, mais rápido nós vai ficar no cavalo, tá? E teremos alguns itens para colocar na montaria, que cada item diferente vai dar um buff diferente, mano. Então tá bem completa a montaria mesmo, velho.
It's light, but there's a lot of variety there for sure.
And I think you can also attach things to your mount, can't you? So visually they look different.
Absolutely, yeah. We have 2 slots on the back of your mount. They work in all the mounts, and there's a variety of ways to earn those. Everybody can see them as you ride around the world.
It's so cool how much it changes the game. It's one of the stories I've been telling internally that is really cool to me is when you do the ECRs, if you do those chest runs a lot of times you'll go to Merkgard and you'll be waiting for the mines to end. And right now in live, it feels really cool when you see 30, 40, 50 people run over the hill. Just wait till you see that, people on horses and wolves and lions. It's just cool. It changes the feel of the world. And the mounts just a lot of care went into making the mounts come out, and they feel really good the way just driving them through the world. So cannot wait to share that with players.
We got a lot of very talented artists and animators working on these, and that love shows. They really feel cool to ride.
Cool. Well, thanks, Dan. Something else we're doing that we haven't really advertised, Dave V, is a level cap increase.
Yeah, all sorts of new progression with the expansion. The first one is the level increase. Super cool. You'll now be able to level up to 65. one of the things we did here was we didn't sort of add artificial time or anything. The content of the expansion dictates the length. So sort of as you progress through the MSQ, you'll naturally sort of end up at 65 at the end. You'll get more attributes from that. Another thing that's coming is we're going to increase the gear score. So gear score is going up to 700. You'll also get more attributes with that. So that'll unlock some new attribute threshold bonuses, which is going to be cool.
Então, galera, quando nós começar a expansão, vai ter mais 5 levels. Só que esses 5 levels, apenas de nós fazer a quest das histórias do mapa novo, liberar a montaria, essas coisas, você já vai pegar level 65, tá? Sem se preocupar com nada. Vai ser automaticamente, basicamente.
Yeah, and when we raise the gear score, we're also removing some types of gear. We're doing some perk changes. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, lots of changes there. As we've talked about already, wards and banes are going by. So what we're trying to do is remove sort of those mandatory perks and make it more interesting to just choose perks you like. So with that, we did a perk rebalance. So trying to bring up the less used perks, maybe even some slight nerfs on things like attunement, some of the strong ones, to try to set everything on the same level. Another big change is, we're removing expertise and with Umbral upgrading also. So lots of big changes coming to it.
Eles estão falando aqui que eles removeram os perks obrigatórios, tipo resiliente ou perk PVE de defesa a feras, corrupção das armaduras, tá, gente? Eles removeram, não vai precisar ser obrigatório mais nas armaduras, será outro tipo de buff, tá? E no caso, você não vai precisar mais upar o seu GS, sua expertise, tá? Não precisa mais upar GS. Pegou level 60, colocou um equipamento 700, você vai... pegou level 65, colocou o equipamento 700, você vai ter o equipamento 700. Não vai precisar upar sua expertise, que eles retiraram.
One of my favorite pieces is loot biasing, right? So what this is you'll be getting less gear, but gear that matters to you more. It'll be based on, what weapons you have equipped, what your equip load is, your attributes. All these things will affect your drops so that they'll matter more.
Yeah, and with that comes some trade skill changes, right?
Absolutely. Trade skills are going up also, up to 250. There will be new items in the world that you can gather. There's new refining that goes with that. And then in crafting, the biggest change is we're trying to...
Tá. Isso aqui é uma coisa mais importante. Gente, olha isso. Há um novo refinamento. Grande chance de Asmodeu, Field Fênix não ser mais útil, tá, gente?
And then in crafting, the biggest change is we're trying to make it more valuable. You will have more control over what you can craft. In fact, you'll have complete control with the prismatic scarab. Sorry about that. Now, this will come, with some limitations and some extra costs, but that ability to get the exact item you want, I think, will be huge for players.
And then I think the last thing that goes with it has to do with the factions.
So, yeah, yet another way to progress your character. The list just keeps going, Katie. I love this. Yes, we're adding a new level of faction rank, so you'll now be able to get a 6th strength. With that comes a whole nother set of items in the store that players can get at. So it's going to be awesome.
That's so cool. Is it me, or does holding a mic make you feel like you're on a game show, changing your voice?
I want to call someone down for the next question.
Galera, terá uns novos equipamentos na loja da facção, tá, mano? Que vai ser importante pra terceira temporada. Vai ter um nível a mais, tá, mano? Então, toma cuidado aí, tá, mano?
It's very, very strange. It's different for us, but we're trying. All right, so we have a lot more stuff coming with this. The next one, we always say that because our weapons are our classes, every time we add a weapon, it feels like you're adding another class. And I think some of you had heard about the flail, but I thought I'd let Josh do a bit of a deep dive on the flail for us.
Yeah, so the new weapon coming in the expansion is the flail. It can pair with the shield, similar to the sword and shield. And there's 2 trees to it, like all weapons, but it's more driven towards support and assisting allies over just raw DPS. So the left tree is more about healing and kind of debuffing enemies while buffing your allies. And then the right tree is more tanking and building up your survivability along with your allies and also attacking enemies simultaneously. It's a very aggressive weapon, but aggressively supportive.
From a gameplay, Oh, you want to go? Dave?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, what I love about the weapon is that it's the first weapon that the actual weapon is animated, so it just looks cool. Like, we call it a flail, but the head of the flail actually extends quite a bit. Like, there's tons of cool whipping motion, and like some of the abilities just look really, really cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of where I was going. When you're in gameplay, it just feels different than everything else in the game, and it's kind of cool to be like a kind of a short-ranged melee or a ranged melee at times. And I think the animators did a great job. I think the VFX are really cool, but it's really neat to finally be able to play that paladin or cleric class. Like it allows you to play the game in ways you wouldn't normally play.
Yeah, I think what I like about it is it gives another option to healers and to...
A Magal vai ser tipo paladino, tá, gente? Ela vai ser cura e suporte, debuff, tá? Uma árvore da esquerda, conforme eles disse.
Like you can use it as an off tank or as an off heal, and I think it's just going to open up a lot of cool build options.
And we're usually surprised by the players finding different ways to play with it, so I'm sure they'll find a DPS option that we just kind of hadn't considered, and that's pretty cool as well. How about... So this is a feature we haven't talked about at all yet. I'm looking at you, Davey. But it's another one that changes gameplay and it ties into the level increase and the perk stuff. You want to talk about artifacts?
Artifacts, absolutely. Artifacts is...
Galera, eles vão falar dos artefatos agora. Dos artefatos, que você vai poder ter um artefato de arma, um artefato de set e um artefato de joia. Cada um vai conter uns poderes diferentes.
Of weapons. They are super powerful. They each come with sort of a gameplay defining perk. What's special is that the only place you can find this perk is on this weapon, so they're unique to that weapon, and they change gameplay. One of my favorite ones, Abyss, it's a great axe which scales off int, right? So like totally changes your build. Like now I can do like, fire staff and a great axe. Totally cool. They're so powerful that we actually had to sort of limit them, so you can only have one weapon, one armor, and one trinket. But they're really cool, and there's a really cool way to power them up. Vince, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, cool. So artifacts are interesting. Like each perk basically starts sort of locked. They have their own sort of mini objective or goal that the player needs to accomplish to basically unlock that perk. And as you kind of sort of progress and use the weapon, you'll make progress towards these things. They also have sort of the unique treatment in the UI that sort of emphasizes how cool they are and unique they are. And we think it'll change the meta. We think it's very exciting for players. Both obviously get as a drop, but also in endgame, and discover ways to use them differently.
Yeah, we always wanted an item you could chase after, right? Something like that. Like, oh, I really want to get this item, and I think that was the goal here. So,
and I think it kind of goes along with our goals for the perk change, which is we don't want you to say, oh, you have to have this item to come play with us at these higher levels.
Não tinha vazado a foto do artefato ainda, mano.
Build around the gameplay they find fun, and I think this leans into that pretty heavily, and it's just feels really, really good so far. But we got a lot more to talk about, so we made some changes to expeditions and mutations.
Agora eles vão falar das mudanças das dungeons, tá, mano? Que agora as mutadas vai ter 3 níveis, tá, gente?
Off on that, Katie? Take Dave's mic. He doesn't need it for a while.
Sure. Yeah. So coming with this release, what we heard from players is that there's a lot of folks that went from the regular expedition through all the mutations, but there's an even larger number that tried the regular expedition, and it wasn't fun. They got walloped in there. The mobs took them out. They couldn't beat Nesh at all. And we really want people to be able to experience all aspects of the game. So starting with this release, we're calling what we're referring to the regular expeditions as a story mode. So they're going to get substantially easier. So folks that maybe felt intimidated with joining an expedition, you shouldn't feel intimidated anymore. You go into the story mode expedition, you can learn all the mechanics, and then they get pretty hard after that. Dave, do you want to walk us through the...
Pare, obrigado pelo subzão aqui, beijão.
No, it's mine.
Digita ticket que vai ter sorteio de 5 expansões de New World pra sub.
Yeah, so with that, we also made changes to mutations. The biggest changes are, one, we brought it down to only 3 levels. We did this because, one, we wanted to make getting a group and getting into a mutation just easier, and there'll be less, areas you have to do. And also there was sort of like a dead zone a lot of times in like that mutation 2 through 4 level. There was a dead zone again in the mid-range before you hit 10. So I think, this will help that. We also did some rebalancing while we did this, right? So like M1 is now our new, what we're calling like my first mutation, So like you shouldn't feel too intimidated to do that. Once you finish Elysian Wilds, you'll be roughly 650 gear score. Like you should feel comfortable jumping right into the M1. No wards needed anymore. Like that should be cool content. And then on the other hand, we made M3 a little bit harder. Like we wanted to push the boundaries and make that challenging. The way the rewards work, there was a lot.
A nível 3 da mutada, eles vão deixar mais difícil do que a M10 atual, tá, gente? Esse que é um conteúdo mais desafiador pro pessoal do PvE.
Incentives to do M10s. We've really adjusted that. So like, as long as you're doing mutations, you're going to get good rewards. It's you'll get them at a slightly quicker pace at M3, but it isn't a huge deal.
It's fun. It's cool. And just seeing the story mode. I mean, I personally had friends who were like, yeah, I tried, but I just couldn't get through Nash, or some of them were just hard. And it's even if it's not even you can't get through them for some people. It's just kind of intimidating for some people to try that kind of content. They feel that added pressure. So I think this is going to expose it to more people, and we still have the mutations. And I think with the change to mutations, you're going to be able to pile in them a lot faster and run them a lot more. I think these are great changes.
Gente, essas mudanças na dungeon foi muito importante, porque é bem difícil você achar PT pra mutada, porque tem 10 mutadas, então, como ainda não é cross-helm, isso vai demorar mais uns 3 meses pra vir um cross-helm de dungeon. Então agora 3 dungeons só, mutação, vai ajudar a ter muito mais dungeon e vai fazer o pessoal fazer mais dungeon também, porque as recompensas melhoraram bastante e você não vai precisar de um set de cada dungeon. Agora, para quem quer fazer conteúdo PvE, o jogo ficou muito melhor e vai deixar mais difícil também para quem gosta de uma dificuldade um pouco maior também.
All right, so now let's talk about that zone formerly known as First Light. I'm sure you've been playing the game and you see that it's blocked off and you're not really sure what's going on, but you know it ain't good. It's now Elysian Wilds. And
Agora eles vão falar um pouco do mapa novo, que é a antiga Primeira Luz, gente.
I'm going to let Rosie take us. We're going to start with the story. So why don't you take us through the story?
All right, so Adiana is just furious about the destruction of the Mother Well, and this is her response.
Obrigado, Fari.
Taken over First Light. It's a complete and utter takeover. We were going for all new, a totally new look. So it should look like it's completely taken over by her. It's the invasive, and it's sort of the expression of her power and her anger. And it sort of has an alien kind of vibe, but still within the New World kind of look and feel. It's grown over and taken over, and as you progress through, you'll also encounter the Beast Lords, which is another, important factor.
Yeah, and I know...
Galera, como eles estão falando aqui, vai ter várias Besta Lord, tipo Besta Lord Macaco, que nem você viu o Tauren, tá? Então terá os Lord Besta. Apesar que tem bastante gente besta aqui na live, mas é nóis, gente.
David, back there, who I'm going to give a second to get the mic, I remember early on when we were talking about it, just like the experience you wanted to create when you go through the gates of it to be hey, I'm not in Kansas anymore. This is a new zone. You want to just talk about that?
Yeah. We really wanted to show something unique and different that you have never seen in New World before. And so when you first enter the zone, it's almost like you're entering a dimension or a new portal. The energy of the whole game changes, the look and feel, the mood and vibe. Suddenly you're in Adiana's garden and you're the invader. And there's so many new and interesting threats and hazards. Meeting the Beast Lords is another really cool portion.
Leon Lord.
And just seeing what has changed in First Light. It's not a total redo. We wanted to tell the story of this POI or this settlement, what happened to it when it was destroyed. And we took a lot of care in managing legacy stories from First Light and integrating it into this major event, this apocalypse.
One of the things, sorry to interrupt, but like one of the things that I found really cool when I was going through the zone was that there's still little remnants of First Light. So it does look like when you go into it, your expectation of seeing any part of First Light is totally gone. But then as you progress through that zone,
Obrigado pela
little
submissão,
Easter
gente.
eggs
Que
that have
beijão.
been left, and you can see how invasive, like you were saying, Rosie, how invasive it is. I love that decision was made to like keep those little pieces of it to remind us that, you know, humans and other beasts were there before Ariana took over.
Yeah. Even if you remember Sherry the cow, even she has a place in the story. We took no expense on if that's the phrase.
Well,
making sure that everything was captured.
One thing I really enjoyed, because I don't remember all of the little details, but when I was playing through it the other day, I saw that the big high stone bridge and arc. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where I am now in relation to the zone, and that was like just kind of a cool moment to where I'm like, I forgot I was in First Light until I saw that, and then I had this kind of pull me back.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to talk a little bit about the ECRs that we're introducing.
Well, let me just do one sidetrack first, because another thing, like right when you walk into the zone, that really hit me. And I know this was one of our goals was to make, like, we wanted the AI to feel very different. And right when you walk into the zone, like the first creatures you see, it carries on. There's so many new AI, and I was hoping that maybe Gwen could talk about some of that.
Oh, I would be happy to talk about that. My favorite thing when I first went into the Elysian Wilds is, first of all, you're hit with the zone itself. It's so beautiful, but things get so much more terrifying when you find yourself surrounded by armored dragons and mammoths and all these crazy new creatures. It feels so primordial.
Gente, estão falando das criaturas novas e tal, mas o que o pessoal mais pediu ainda, cadê os hipopótamos, mano? Isso é só pra quem é velho no New World, cadê os hipopótamos?
And it's so heart-pounding when you've got these big, beastly creatures all over you. So you get to fight all these new creatures. We got the Hircine family introduced for some new narrative, and we're just getting started with all of them.
Well, it's not just the beasts and creatures, right? I mean, like, you run into the woods to hide, and then a mushroom might attack you.
Caralho, que da hora.
Other things are alive that, like, holy cow, this thing. There's nowhere safe here.
And don't forget, we've got, if you like just squishing the scorpions in Brimstone, you're going to love that with the beetles that we've got in the Elysian Wilds. I know, I love squishing a beetle.
Awesome. All right, so David, you started talking about ECRs. So let's get back to that. I know you had a lot of fun with some of these.
I do want to talk about those beetles though. They also glow, and they're fireflies, and at night the entire zone becomes this bioluminescent wonderland as well, which I really love. But the ECRs, there's actually two major ones, and then two sort of elite overlords that we introduced in Brimstone. The two big ones are very beast themed. This is where you'll meet some of the new creatures, and you will have access to new resources. There are now apes in First Light, and one of the things you can now
what's
find...
First Light?
Oh, sorry, Elysian Wilds.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can, because of those, we added bananas to a lot of the trees in the game. So now that's a new resource. There's lots of new stuff to gather as well.
Aê, galera, agora vocês vai poder pegar no bananão, vai poder pegar banana. Quem gosta de comer banana vai ter banana no New World.
But there's one ECR up in the north of Elysian Wilds called the Isle of Zervan. And this is just like a large open area designed for mounts in a way. You climb up this great trial and challenge as a group. There's multiple puzzles to get through and advance to the top. There's magical bridges that appear once you commune with the Beast Lords and receive their power. You can activate them and let everyone in the ECR travel across together. There's a lot of cool surprises on them, and there's two giant, lions at the very top that can leap and go around the arena there. It's really cool, and the view from the top is phenomenal. There's another the arena. You can activate.
Sim, mano, tem mais debuff aqui. Eu não sei o que significa. Sport Dash. Alguém manja de inglês aqui,
that
mano?
appear once you commune with the beast lords and receive their power. You can activate them and let everyone in the ECR travel across together. There's a lot of cool surprises on them, and there's 2 giant, lions at the very top that can leap and go around the arena there. It's really cool, and the view from the top is phenomenal. There's another one in the south called Tribunal High Mound, and that's another beast-themed ECR, and that one is cool because you see a lot more variety of creatures that we don't have on the other. So you'll see lizards, giant lizards, you'll see chameleons that can go invisible. And if they die while they're invisible...
E temos nosso primeira coisa invisível mesmo no jogo, gente. Temos...
You still have to find their body to skin. And if they die while they're invisible, you still have to find their body to skin them, which I think is a cool feature. But you'll dive into some ancient ruins and you'll defeat a number of things, and you'll pop out right next to the expedition entrance to Savage Divide. That's a really fun one.
Before we segue to Savage Divide, though, there's a new kind of game-ish mode as well in the Elysian Wilds. You want to talk about Secret of the Spores?
Yeah, so some of the new resources that we've added, one of those are called spore pods, and these are seeds that Artemis has left throughout the zone of Elysian Wilds. You'll have to meet a certain NPC in the first little town that you get to. He will guide you through the process of getting a bottle, and then you will go around the zone and start putting things in the bottle and becoming a little potion maker. And those potions you can upgrade them throughout multiple tiers. They're going to help you survive the Elysian Wilds, do more damage, get more loot, things like that. It's a unique element similar to sort of the sulfur and sandstone loop that we had in Brimstone, but very nature themed and gathering themed, and it's really cool. We also have a new affliction. You can get drenched by spores if you don't take care of walking around them, and that will increase damage on you by 25% unless you have a potion on you, which takes a lot of time and investment to.
I will say those numbers
upgrade
are,
that.
Those numbers are temporary. We're not sure yet.
Oh yeah,
they may change before this comes out, so don't be mad at David if he's wrong.
Asterisk.
Doesn't this being spore drenched also make like the critters, the things that normally wouldn't aggro you, like attack you?
That's a different mushroom. There's a lot in this zone. That's the rage miasma, and that is a environmental hazard that will turn any nearby beasts, give them more damage and make them attack you. And so if you want to take that out first, then the encounter will be a lot easier. So
that's cool. And so you touched on this. So you go through that run, and then you end up at the entrance to the Savage Divide. Rosie, what's the Savage Divide? Tell us about that. And get that mic up there.
You hear me? The Savage Divide is really, it's the culmination of the invasive growth. It's a real showcase for all of our amazing beasts and beast lords. And we kind of thought about it like thinking about the San Diego Zoo. There's exhibits for all the different creatures, but they're kind of mixed together. So we took that kind of approach so that all of the areas within the Savage Divide would feel different from each other.
Essa é a Dungeon Nova, gente.
And it's all unique and interesting, and supports those beast lords and the elemental beast lords as well.
That is so cool, Rosie. You know what blows my mind, Gwen, is we've gotten this far, and we haven't talked about mammoths yet.
What?
I know. How is that even possible?
What? Oh, no, I love the mammoths. There's something really, really satisfying, like on a primal level, about going out into the wild and taking down a big old mammoth. He's stomping around, swinging at you, and you just bring him down.
Caralho, o mamute vai ser muito grande, velho.
I'm really excited for everybody to get out there and hunt mammoths. Let's all go mammoth hunting together.
Okay, you're selling past the close, but keep going.
No. You want me to just keep talking about mammoths? You
No,
want me to
but
talk
what
about
else?
the
What
big
else
mammoths?
might I find in the Savage Divide?
Oh man. Okay. Did I talk about the squishing beetles? Again, I love squishing the beetles. You've got exploding sprouts. You've got the chameleons going invisible on you. You've got armored dragons. You've got the Hircines. You've got corvids flying up into the air and raining feathers down on you.
For those of us that don't know what a corvid is, why don't you just give me a little description? Like what's because it sounds cool. I like the name, but I don't know what a corvid is.
The corvid is a big old bird. Like you think about crows, that's one of the corvid family. But our crows
Isso
are
é corvo?
a combination of humans and animals
Corvette?
that died somewhere close to each other and resurrected in a combination. That's our Hircine family. You've got the birds,
Corvette não é
you've got
carro?
boars, you've got reindeer. All of these creatures that have come out from everything that's just gone crazy and wild with the Elysian Wilds.
You even have the rats, right?
We've got
and
the
then,
rats.
And then you've got the bunnies with the bunny surprise, is what I call them. So we don't have to get into what the surprise is, but it's definitely a bunny surprise. And I think like probably one of the coolest things from somebody, who runs our expeditions, we always want to know about the bosses. I think that these bosses have very cool and unique
Vai ter
mechanics that players
Provavelmente vai ter um coelho no meio do mapa, tipo os ossos do sorteio, gente. Um coelho especial,
have
mano.
not seen before.
There's mammoths in the expedition too. Hello, the biggest mammoth of all. I think what you have to realize with our Savage Divide is with everything that we've been doing in the Ennead and Brimstone, we've unleashed a whole new level of magic into Eternum. So everything that you're seeing in the expedition has gotten a lot more wild and crazy. You've got everything is much more magical. The bosses are bigger and badder than ever, probably our hardest expedition bosses yet, and they're throwing out all sorts of magic spells. It's going to be really fun.
So yeah, all of the creatures, all of this stuff culminates in a really cool reward. JR, why don't you talk to us about the new heart rune, Primal Fury?
I'd be happy to. So this heart rune is one of our most ambitious heart runes to date, because it's
Galera, eles vão falar da nova runa agora de poder, que você basicamente vai virar uma fera.
not just a single attack like our other heart runes, but it actually puts you in this other state. So you're in this beast-like state where you become larger and your
Você
light
vai
attacks
ficar
change
grande
like
e vai
melee
bater
spikes.
como
And your
gorila.
heavy attack is this leaping strike that jumps on your opponent and knocks them down. And then the variants for it are also kind of interesting. So like the brutal variant, you will do more damage, but at the cost of taking more damage. And actually, as you damage your opponent, it will extend the duration, so you can get more of your large form. And then the stalwart version is kind of the inverse. So you'll deal less damage, but you'll also take less damage, and you actually extend the duration by taking damage.
Sim, pelo
It's
jeito você
kinda
vai
crazy making it bigger.
ficar com afinco, mano, quando
It's
você
fun to
usar
see it,
ela.
but I'm already waiting for some screenshots or some videos of people finding really weird places to do that and seeing what happens. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So we actually, there were a lot of things that you could, so because it's a state that like it's always active while you're in this state, it definitely opened up this whole other realm of like I don't want to call them bugs because actually they're more like features. Like they're interesting things that come from like you can flip a table when you're in this state, or and there was actually like one thing that I know it's not really like necessary, but I wanted to include it, which was you can open your inventory like while you're in this state, and you can see yourself in beast form, and it's just kind of funny. Like, but you might want to use your inventory while you're raging out.
Hey, beasts do crazy things.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a lot of the stuff in the expansion. I don't want to say it's everything because I might have forgot something, and I don't want to miss anything. But overall, like, we are so excited to get that expansion out and just let everyone play it and get some feedback and see what you think. But there is more in this release because it is also a season. So first thing is we have a new reward track. I don't really want to go deep on that now, but there is we'll talk about that in the future. But we made this commitment to everyone that by the end of the year we'd finish MSQ, and we're not finished it yet, but the year's not over yet. but we have made some pretty good progress. Now it takes you much further. And I'm going to let Carrie start us on. Tell us about that new story through Great Cleave.
All right. So when last we met in the MSQ, our updates were in Weaver's Fen, and you basically learned about Morgaine and Galahad and what they were doing to sort of uncover what was going on with the corrupted and Blight. Well, in Great Cleave, things take a little bit more of a personal turn as you help Galahad and Jonas go in there to retake the zone. So the corrupted have taken over Great Cleave, and they've pushed south from the north, down from Shattered Mountain, and you're there to sort of win back the zone with them. So Jonas pushes on ahead, against Galahad's wishes, going up to retake one of the first outposts that's there, and you and Galahad realize that maybe Jonas got in over his head a bit, so you have to go there, rescue some, younger soul wardens who have also taken up the mantle, and meet up with Jonas and discover what exactly is going on. And of course, what's going on is Thorpe. Thorpe is basically thrown in his lot with Isabella, and he is all in for proving that he is the biggest, baddest dude on the island. So throughout the zone, you are chasing behind Thorpe as he is one step ahead of you, setting up fell portals, just gathering enemies, mining, collecting all these resources so that he can really help Isabella with her massive push to take over the zone.
And then does that take you into Eden Grove at all?
So after, of course, you kick Thorpe's ass, because it's gonna happen, he's gonna fall. You go back and Jonas gets injured. And, you didn't think this could be a thing, but he's old, he's been around a while, and he needs your help. So in going back to Caerdon to sort of help Jonas recover,
de história eu não manjo muito não,
get
mano.
the place protected, because
História é
you want to make sure
complicado.
Caerdon has, support and barricades for in case anything fails. That's when you find out that, there's been some interesting goings-on in Eden Grove.
So speaking of Eden Grove, one thing we hate taking things away from players, and we knew it was going to be a temporary. We were more borrowing it, but when we took the settlement out of First Light, we decided to put a new one in Eden Grove, so Eden Grove now not only has a settlement, but it's an ownable territory, and there's cool reasons for that and story behind it, and new architecture and stuff. And I'm going to hand it off to Rosie to get. And there's cool reasons for that, and now it not only has a settlement, but it's an ownable territory.
Galera, agora Grove não é só mais um assentamento, é um território possuído.
And there's cool reasons for that and story behind it and new architecture and stuff. And I'm going to hand it off to Rosie to give you the details.
Yeah, we've got the all-new architecture set. It's inspired by more of a northern European look. There's these huts, yurts, very large interiors to go into, and with a beautiful view.
Eden Grove is also...
Mano, Grove é muito bom pra farmar. Double farm.
now going to be the crown jewel for any company that owns it, because it will be worth the most in terms of income.
That's kind of a big deal. I like that. We've also made some other changes to Eden Grove. When we put the settlement in, we wanted to move some things around, and there was an interesting experiment we wanted to take. And so, David, why don't you explain this one?
Sure. So in Eden Grove, you've got, the settlement in the shadow of Malevolence. You've got the fort up north now. But we took Malevolence, which was a in-game ECR, and we converted it into a soloable experience. We left a few elite chests around there for the climbers in the player base, and some of the more jumping puzzle-like areas. But we took the bosses, and since they are favored by a lot of people, they get farmed for certain things. We put them in their own little arena somewhere in Eden Grove, which you can look for.
Shh! Tell them, let them find them.
Oh, it's just southeast of Malevolence.
Hey, Scott, I don't care what you say. I'm just going to do it anyway.
It's somewhere in there. I can't give you an exact coordinate, but I can picture it. No, it's close to
Não entendi.
Metz Grove, which is the trial. So
It's awesome. I think, and like we're joking a lot, but it's really interesting to try. Like we have this beautiful content of Malevolence, and a lot of people ECR it, but some people like to play more solo. And I think you guys did a great job of just making it, taking out the things that were really neat, and like, or not taking out, leaving.
Basicamente eles estão falando que mudaram o mapa e eles colocaram os boss em lugares específicos. Porque vai ter, como eles vão ter de colocar um forte de ataque, um forte de defesa, por causa que agora vai virar um mapa conquistável, né, mano?
Leaving in the things that were really neat, moving the things that the groups wanted somewhere else so they still have access to that, but giving more players the ability to check out this content. And we'll see how it goes. You know, like this is the first time we've done this. If it works, we might look at other places. If it doesn't, we won't. You know, and I think that's kind of something that we've shown along the way, that we like to like try things, see what people think, and figure out, do we do more of that or do we less of it? So overall, I think
Isso, Shadow.
we have one more thing to talk about, and I'm going to let Rachel fill us in. We've talked a lot about like some of the influence changes we're making, but we haven't got really specific. So she's behind me, Rachel.
Yes.
You want to go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah, I am so excited for Influence V2. So now every single day there will be influence races scheduled in 3 territories. And during these influence races, capture points will become available in that zone that you can go and capture with your faction. You're fighting other factions. I think that a lot of us agree that open world PvP is maybe the most fun PvP. So now you have you have 3 capture points plus the fort to go after. They give you a trickle of influence, and they also boost the amount of influence that you earn from missions. We're updating the PvP missions to be a little bit closer to the towers, or, well, we're calling them towers, but they're really watches or capture points around the territory. But the PvP missions will be a little closer in, and so it'll be very well rewarded too. So you get a lot of, as I saw, a lot of going towards your PvP rewards track during these 45 minutes of the influence race. Outside of the influence race, one other thing that we're adding in is that a fort lock. So every time you capture a fort, it will be locked for an hour. There will be a timer on the map, so you know when that fort is going to be ready to be unlocked again, and you know when to go after it. But also your faction now gets that guaranteed benefit for an hour from that fort.
Tá, galera, novo World PVP, como que vai funcionar agora? Vamos lá. Durante 45 minutos, 3 mapas no horário de pico do servidor, vai poder farmar influência. Só que durante esse tempo, no farm de influência, você, como um jogador de outra facção, você pode ir matar os outros, que o bônus que você vai ganhar durante esse 45 minutos vai ser alto. Então, o XP de PVP, os tokens de facção que você vai ganhar nesse horário vai ser tipo o dobro, 3 vezes mais, tá ligado? Podemos dizer assim, vai ser muito a mais do que o normal. Então você vai querer comprar essa briga, porque vai ser muito vantajoso durante esses 45 minutos. Vai ser só 45 minutos, tá, gente? Outra coisa que eles colocaram agora, faz de conta, se sua facção domina o forte, o forte agora vai ficar locado por 1 hora. Outra pessoa só vai conseguir dominar o forte depois de 1 hora. Isso vai criar PVP a cada 1 hora gigante, mano. Ainda mais pros fortes principais de farm ou de diárias. Sim, agora o World PVP vai ser importante durante esses 45 minutos, mano. A galera vai querer PVP porque vai dropar muito item, vai dropar... Mano, isso vai mudar muito, velho.
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, well, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to ask, so win or lose, does a war happen now? Is there any
Oh,
changes
yeah,
there?
good point. Sorry, I didn't even say the most important thing about influence. It's what obviously allows your company to go to war, your faction go to war against the owning faction. At the end of every single influence race, as long as a faction has earned influence and has earned the most influence during that race, there is a war. That territory does go into conflict, and there's a war the next day.
And I think it's safe to say we're going to be watching really closely, and we have a lot of knobs dials we can turn based on how players use this, and like we're going to be paying really close attention?
Yes, absolutely. So lots of different things we can change while we watch all y'all play. I'm excited to see all the Twitch streams, YouTube videos, all of it.
That's cool. So we've covered a lot, and I want to thank everyone here for doing this. The format's been a little challenging with the mics and the way we're all sitting, but I think it was cool. It was fun. I'm sorry, David, you got something to add? One quick announcement, the PTR is coming soon. How specific is that? Soon. But it's getting there. As soon as it's ready, we'll put it up. And I think that's it. If you like what you saw, please tell us.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt you. So there is something that's going to be different about this PTR phase that I want players to get ready for. So once the announcement goes out, this is going to be a short PTR phase. Previously, we've had the PTR up for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, in some instances 5 weeks that we've had content rolling through. This is going to be a one-time, the build's going out, you play it for a limited time, which we'll have details coming out soon, but then it's going to shut down ahead of our release.
Galera, então o PTR não vai sair essa semana, tá? O PTR, no máximo, vai sair semana que vem ou na próxima só, tá, gente? Como vocês podem ver aqui. O PTR não está pronto, eles querem lançar uma coisa bem curta no PTR.
So get your play in, give us your feedback as quick as possible so we have time to make adjustments. And we will do our next Q&A shortly after the PTR comes out. With that, if you like what you saw, I'll finish what I'm saying now. Subscribe, like us, follow, all those fun things. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you all in Eternum.